There?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. Assume you're rolling. This one is called Arrogance. 3, 2, 1. If one was to make a TV series about you, but then all they did is interview or talk to just a small handful of people, just a few people, but those few people that they do choose are the people who've considered you their enemy, do you think that series would paint a favorable picture of you or not? Listen, if you don't have personal experience with this kind of thing, then think about Kai Trump. Think about this girl, a teenage girl really, who knows her grandfather very, very well, but turns on CNN or MSNBC and watches that dude, Joy Reid, who used to be on there. Maybe Kai listens to that Joy Reid fella for a while, and then that Joy Reid guy with his giant fake eyelashes who was fired from MSNBC. And by the way, ladies, stop it with the fake eyelashes. I don't care if you're on TV. They look horrible. Men don't like them. Just no man has the courage to tell you that. I do. I can do that because I'm in prison, so stop it. You look far better without those stupid things. Anyway, let's say Kai watches that Joy Reid guy and some guests on the show slander the character of President Trump all day long, since that's what MSNBC and the corporate media, they really can't do anything else. Now, between Kai Trump versus that Joy Reid guy or any one of those guests, which one of those people actually knows President Trump the best? His granddaughter Kai or that Joy Reid guy and his guests who've never even met the president? And by the way, I don't know if you've ever noticed this, but I've never seen Joy Reid and that Kenan Thompson at the same time. I suspect it's really the same person. Anyway, the answer is obviously Kai. Well, I have that same exact problem, and I have personal experience with this kind of thing. Aside from Janet, the only one who was interviewed in the last 10 years are the same few faces over and over who have already declared me their enemy for whatever reason, including those people that have something to hide and who needed me silenced. This includes the Kings of Tupelo. It's the same faces that were interviewed, those same few whose agenda is already to say bad things, and this isn't paranoia. This is fact. It's objective. The only people that you see in that series, other than Janet, the only ones that you see there are the ones who are put there in order to say bad shit. Sheriff Jim Johnson, for example, he feared me more than anybody, and you'll understand why pretty soon. He was never a friend of mine. He doesn't know a thing about me. The total time I ever spent around that guy, 30 minutes. The total time I've ever spent in conversation with that dude, probably 5-6 minutes, tops. He doesn't know me at all. And then, of course, there's
This call is from a federal prison.
Kevin Curtis himself. He literally, this is literal, he publicly posted an enemies list, and he put me on it. His favorite pastime for over a decade now, and still does it, is to fabricate BS about me, blasting me, all the while trying to pretend that he is me. Now, this is not hyperbolic. That's reality, and he's still doing it, actually. A total time that I've ever spent around that guy, combined, is less than 12 minutes total. He doesn't know anything about me. Then there's Steve Harlan. Woohoo! A completely sad case about a lonely divorcee who knows that the only way to make himself relevant is by trashing me at every chance he's got, every chance he gets. He's always been an attention-starved media whore. But notice, the only time that anyone talks to him these days is for the sole purpose of trashing me. His only purpose, then, actually involves me. He's irrelevant otherwise, and he knows it, unless it's about me. So he has to assert himself into every story, which is really, really weird, even lying to do so. This Queen of Tupelo is certainly no authority on me. In 2004 at a political event, and he was acting then kind of like a sputtering, petulant child throwing a baby tantrum. That's the only conversation he and I have ever had, if you can call it one, because he avoided every single debate, every single forum. He even avoided back-to-back speeches just to avoid me. Total time around that guy, 3 minutes. Steve Holland has no clue who I am. Then there's Special Agent Stephen Thomason. This former FBI special agent in charge, this is the same clown who got canned from my case after several entrapment schemes of his. They went bust. But you, the public, you never knew that, did you? The corporate media never bothered to report that to you. They didn't even bother to ask. Now, here's something else you don't know about this FBI agent who claims, otherwise why would he be on the show, that he's an expert on Dusky. This is the same guy who was told to find a way to convict me. No shit. Thus, his entrapment schemes and the lies that he told, under oath, by the way, perjury, and actual theft. And you'll hear more details about that too. Also, after Bob Mueller and Jim Comey were told by President Obama and Eric Holder to, quote, make an example out of him, meaning me, as Obama told Jim Comey to use the right people. This former FBI agent, since he got canned, he is not an expert on me. He knows nothing about me except the millions of dollars, no joke, you'll hear more about this later, millions, hundreds of millions actually, at today's value, that he stole from me. Yes, that's right, I said that. You'll understand why very soon. I'm convinced, along with his sidekick, Tiny John Quokka, more on that coming, with documentation, by the way. So he's no expert. He just plays one on TV. He's an expert, he is an expert, what do they call Kevin Curtis? Impersonator. He's impersonating an expert. But Stephen Thomason, because he's a historian by education and his original occupation, he knows that whoever holds the power is the one who creates the narrative, which becomes the historical accounting. His persecution, his abuse of power, even after imprisonment, there's still things he even did, even after this quote-unquote closed case, to cause me harm.
This call is from a federal prison.
As soon as I can, I'll reveal that too, and with documentation, by the way. Even the Kings of Tupelo, the Netflix people, they learned of some of this, but they didn't bother revealing it to you. They still hid it from you. But aside from one car ride, the total time in conversation with this fired ex-Fed, 30 minutes. Max, he is no expert on me. By the way, I've been informed by some of my Zintin friends in Libya, Tripoli specifically, that they know who he is, and they do not trust him in his new role, and I believe that Tulsi Gabbard should red flag him as a serious security risk. Most curiously, by the way, was Thomason's little sidekick, also former FBI agent. Now he has his own police force in Tupelo. I say most curiously because this is important. In the Kings of Tupelo, he actually says, check the transcript, when you meet Everett Dusky, you immediately sense that he's arrogant. But then you realize that he has no conscience, nor does he have a soul. Those are his actual words, by the way, implying to you that that was his impression from when he met Everett Dusky. Those are his words on camera. But here's the problem. I've never met that guy. Never. Until after my arrest, I had absolutely no idea who he is, or was. Still don't. I've never met him. He knows absolutely nothing about me, except that I was a target for him and Stephen Thomason until they got caught with their fake entrapment schemes, he and his partner. I know that he was aware of, most likely complicit in the millions of dollars his partner stole from me, so they had loads of incentive, millions of reasons, by the way, to keep me silent. And again, proof coming soon. But the fact remains that he said to you on national television that he thought I was, quote, arrogant when he met me. But the guy's never met me. Yet he, kind of like that Joy Reid fellow, Trump, claims that he can make such a judgment of somebody that he's never met. And then he lied to you about it. And Netflix helped. So who, then, is the arrogant one? Because the total time I've ever spent in any conversation with Little John Quokka is exactly 0 minutes, 0 seconds. So none of those detractors, who seem to be the only people that the media seeks out, certainly none of them are qualified to make any judgments on me whatsoever. None. So why then? How then could you, the viewing public, how can you trust them, these people, to tell you anything? Seriously. If I wanted to do a TV show about your life, who would you want me to present? Those people who hate you and don't know you, or those people that actually know you and probably, don't hate you? Which one? So now you see the choice that Netflix made. Also, what did Thomason and Quokka mean by saying I'm arrogant? Simple. Think about the effect their FBI badge usually has on people. Normal civvies, such as yourself think. Usually they flash their creds and then people just fold. People just shrivel into little spineless things and they roll over. They would betray their own mother, their own son, their own husband, just to satisfy that fear. They capitulate. They surrender. And they even offer up others to sacrifice to the FBI. And actually, they train on tactics, which result in exactly that, by the way. It's not Jedi mind tricks, which work on weak-minded people, but trained and taught tactics and skills, literally from their manual, by the way. And yet, the weak-minded, they do fall for it. They do capitulate. They used these tactics on everyone around me, on my bankers, on my students. Those same two literally flew to Minnesota, stood in my ex-wife's living room, and schemed for her, which she did, to call my then current wife, with them standing there controlling her like a puppet. And she fell for it. And she actually tried exactly that. Such a betrayal is pitiful. It's sad, really. But they tried that, among other things. And by the way, if there was ever actually any kind of slam dunk evidence, as they claimed through the press, then they really wouldn't have had to go through all those entrapment schemes, by the way, would they? Which ultimately got them fired. Something you guys in the public are just now learning. The point is, they're used to you civvy types just rolling over and surrendering. They're used to supplicants. And I'm not like that. I don't see them as some sort of deity. I treat them, everyone really, FBI agents too, exactly as they've earned. I treat them how they are. I did not shrivel before Special Agent in Charge Thomason like he's used to, as Kevin Curtis did. That's why they call me arrogant, because I didn't just fold in front of them. Why would I? Listen, when your enemy comes for you, and he's armed with a badge or a knife, you don't hand them your knife. Because I didn't bow to those corrupt figures, because I told them, showed them my contempt for their weak-ass tactics, which I recognize, and by the way, I've already used numerous times, and by their own admission, horribly embarrassed Bob Mueller, as they said, humiliated him and Eric Holder. That lack of capitulation, to them, that actually looks like arrogance. As in, how dare you not bow to me? Don't you see my badge? Well, yeah, and listen, Thomason claims during his time at the FBI that he's interviewed terrorists and murderers, serial killers. Nobody fits into the category of Everett Dusky. Well, that's because you're used to talking to people that are actually guilty, dude. And I'm not. But that's sad. I'll say in reply, I've talked to the highest level terrorists too. Literally. Alex Station-worthy level terrorists, murderers, several serial killers, assassins, politicians, presidents, dictators, all who fit those descriptors. And I'll say that people like Thomason, Quokka, and even Holland and Jim's Little Johnson and Jim Comey and Bob Mueller, they are a dime a dozen. Thomason and Quokka are a dime. Quokka, they're a dime a dozen. Dusky's arrogant. Well, we got to arrest him then. Your Honor, we believe we should just throw this guy in jail because, well, he's arrogant. And Aycock would probably say, well, there's no greater crime, convicted. But none of that is true, though, so I'm going to prove it. You may already know, but you may not. I've written a whole lot of music, some of which you've actually heard on national commercials, movies, television shows. I've actually written quite a few books, too. Won lots of awards, gold medals, and contests. And all of that has happened not because I'm arrogant. Arrogance doesn't get the job done and leave no doubt. Those are my two principles right there. Get the job done and leave no doubt. But those things happen because I work my ass off to get them. I earn them. Maybe the reason that I'm well into my 50s but still look like I'm in my 30s might be genetic, but it's not because I'm arrogant. It's also true that everything comes easy to me, but whatever some may criticize as a comment of my vanity, it really isn't that. The reason I can say all these things, the reason I can say I have these rock-hard abs isn't to serve my empty vanity. It's because I work my ass off to keep them, to be this way. It takes work because I'm willing to do the work. So just to prove that I'm not arrogant, I'm going to write another book. But this time it's going to be on humility. I'll call it The Joy of Humbleism or whatever. It'll be huge. It'll be the best book ever on being humble. When I get out, I'm going to build a giant center to fight arrogance, a giant center about humbleism, a massive statue of me in front expressing my extreme humbleism. Even John Quokka can come to visit me, and he can be in awe of the majesty of my humility. In fact, I'll meet him there because it'll be the first time I've ever met him. Anyway, thanks for listening to this nonsense and letting me set things straight. That's my 3 chords and the truth.